All right. So have you ever found yourself desiring success, but then find yourself sabotaging that very success? Do you find yourself avoiding opportunities to shine and expand your horizons and experiences? Are you always asking yourself questions like, what's wrong with me? What's my problem? Well, if you're like most people, if you're like me, you're probably made fun of a lot as a child by other children. You were probably misunderstood by adults. Well, I've got great news for you today. You are different, and your difference is not your dysfunction. And I believe that what happens when we go through life believing that our difference is our dysfunction is that we spend most of our lives hiding ourselves. We spend most of our lives hating ourselves. We spend most of our lives hindering ourselves and thinking that it's happening on the outside. Well, I've got great news for you. It's the difficulties of your life, the setbacks that are the setups for the comebacks. They're going to make you shine like nothing else could. So stop cursing your curses. Stop being burdened by your burdens and let your burdens be a blessing. And I'm telling you, if you will do that, it will take your life to a level that you can't imagine. So today, we're going to talk about the fact that your differences aren't your dysfunction. Because if you believe they are, you're probably hiding right now. You probably, and when I say hiding, what do I mean? Like, you know there are things that you could do to take your life and your business to the next level, maybe utilizing social media, but you don't like how you look on video. Well, utilizing YouTube or TikTok or Instagram video, but you don't like the sound of your voice. You don't like how you look or the shape of your body or something about you. When you look at yourself, you don't really look at yourself. You look at the identity that somebody who didn't recognize your greatness gave to you when you were a little child. And I'm here to let you know, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Now, I had a lot of things, quote, about me that were wrong with me when I was growing up. My nickname in my family was, and still is, Big Head. It wasn't that funny. Because I have a big head. I can't, like I tell people, like when it comes to golf hats, I don't wear snapbacks because like the back of my head just leaks out of that hole. Okay. But my head was this size when I was in the first grade, right? And I didn't realize why my brothers called me Big Head until I became an adult. I saw a picture of myself. Oh, that's why. I saw a picture of myself in first grade. That's why they called me Big Head, right? And as if being called, like if being Big Head wasn't enough, because I was Big Head, I also had polio as an infant. So I've walked with a brace on my leg my whole life, and kids made fun of me, and I was chosen last when we were playing games on the playground, and all of that made me feel less than. But not as if that's not bad enough, I've got 6 brothers. All of them can run. I've got 1 older brother, 5 younger brothers. They can all run. I've never run anywhere in my life. I don't know what it feels like to bound from one leg to the other through the wind in your hair. Didn't do it. Okay, so I didn't have that. And then I grew up in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. Lewistown, Pennsylvania. Little bitty town. There were 6 black families in the whole town in the 60s. And I did great in school all the way through the 3rd grade. And it went downhill from there. So now, here you got this big-headed kid who walks with a limp, who can't run, who's struggling his way through school. When I graduated, oh man, I meant to bring it in here. When I graduated from high school, I went to a small Christian school in Pennsylvania. And when I graduated, they gave me the most likely to get on your nerves award. It was like a little pill bottle with some earmuffs that were made out of those little pipe cleaner things. It said Myron Gold. They had like a table full of trophies. And I'm telling you this because all of these things made me want to shrivel up and just disappear when I was a child. And I am telling you that all of like, I'm 63 now, right? So all of the things that I hated about myself because other people made me feel less than, all of those things are things that were absolutely essential to me becoming the person who could fulfill the purpose of my life. If I had missed any of that, I would have missed all of this. And I'm telling you, stop lamenting your lamentations. Stop thinking that the things that were missing in your childhood was the result of God, like, making a mistake when it came to your life. The enemy. Yeah, I know my jacket is jacking this microphone up. It's not my beard, it's my jacket. But I'm going to take my jacket off here in a minute because I'm hot anyway. Stop thinking that you are or aren't who they told you you're not. Some of you, there was a kid, I remember this kid, his name was Dave Ray. We were in 5th grade. And he was really cool and popular. Cool and popular. You're in the 5th grade. How cool could you possibly be? You're in the 5th grade, for crying out loud. Anyway, we're in the 5th grade. He's cool, he's popular. I'm just me. To make it all that worse, like, all of my brothers have normal names, and I got Myron. Oh, I hated my name so bad when I was a kid. Oh, you don't even know. You've never seen a child hate their name so much. I was born on Mother's Day. I remember I used to say to my mom, really? Really? You gave all my brothers normal names. And all you could think of when it came to me was Myron. And that's how I said it too. I said, Mom, no, nothing personal. When I turn 18, I'm changing my name. I hated it. And you know what's worse? I hated my middle name even worse. Like, my children were teenagers. I hated my middle name so much that my children were teenagers when they found out what my middle name was. They didn't know they didn't even know. Even though my dad always called me by my first and middle name, they missed it. So my middle name is Freddie. My dad would say, "My Freddie," right? I hated it. I just hated it. And I remember I was in the 6th grade. So I was probably 11 or 12. Me and my dad are walking down the street right here in Tampa. And one of his old friends from when he was a kid came up to us. And my dad was proud. He was like proud of his sons, right? And my dad's like, "Son, this is my friend Mary. We grew up together. Mary, this is my son. Son, tell Mary your name." I was in shock. Like, what is happening here? Like, you just told me her name. I was an introvert too. And I didn't like my name. And so now I got to talk to a stranger, and I got to talk to this stranger about something that I'd rather not talk to anybody about. I got to tell her my name. And I know y'all think I'm just saying this, but I'm showing you that you're not the only one that has stuff in your past that you don't like about you. So part of the reason I didn't like my name is because I didn't know how to say it. You say, what do you mean you didn't know how to say it? So my parents were from Tampa. We grew up in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. I had cousins in Pennsylvania. I had cousins in Florida. I had cousins in Ohio. And we went to see family a lot. So my family, even to this day, they call me Marin. It's like M-A-R-I-N, Marin, like Marin, right? My brothers, that's what they call me. They call me Marin, right? So I'm an auditory learner. So Marin sounds very different than what my teachers called me, because my teachers called me Myron. But my cousins in Mount Union, they called me Marn. And my cousins in Florida called me Myron. I had no earthly idea how to properly say my name. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous now, but when I was a child, it was like I had all this stuff going on in my head about my name, and it was a tragedy, right? And I didn't like myself. And it wasn't that I didn't like myself, it was that I didn't like the things about myself that other people brought to my attention that made me feel less than. But I didn't realize why they were doing it. I didn't realize the reason they were making me feel less than was because they actually felt less than, and that was the only way they knew how to make themselves feel more than. And when I realized that, I was like, wait, so it's not that you don't like me that you're messing with me. It's that you don't like you that you messing with me? Oh, cool. Say less, do more, right? And so what we have to do is we have to free ourselves from this, because I'm going to tell you something. If there were no challenges, there could be no champions. Like, do you understand? Goliath was a stage for David to reveal to the world that David is a giant slayer. And I'm telling you that all of the things in your past, the fact that maybe you were abused as a child, maybe you were made fun of as a child, maybe you were beat up, maybe you were called names, maybe you were whatever. All of it. Yeah, I know it was hard, but I'm telling you, it was a blessing. Your difference is not your dysfunction. Everybody wants to live an outstanding life, but very few people are willing to stand out to do it. And what we got to be willing to do is we got to be willing to stand out and stand up and let people see us and stop hiding and stop attempting to be invisible because we feel like we might not be accepted, and stop measuring ourselves by other people's yardsticks, and stop pretending that I'm just not that good. Well, you're good enough to help somebody if you could take your mind off of you long enough to put your mind on them. I'm telling you, it's so freeing. So, there are 4 areas that I want to talk to you about where you have differences that might be causing you to hide from your assignment. And I want to challenge you today, whether you're out there in the YouTubeosphere or whether you're in this roomosphere. I want to challenge you to stop believing that your difference makes you weird. Because the thing that makes you weird is the thing that makes you wonderful. I mean, granted, there are some people out there who are just weird, right? And what I mean by that, there are people out there who have like they're socially disturbed and psychologically disturbed. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to those of you who just don't like yourself because of an experience that you had in the past when you weren't even mature enough to understand life yet. And you still believe that you're too tall or too short or too ugly or too handsome or too pretty or too light or too dark or too whatever, smart or too dumb. And you're buying into all this stuff, and you're dancing around the responsibilities of your life, attempting to avoid stepping into your greatness. But because you don't see it as your greatness, you see it as your flaws. It's all of those things. It's all of those things that were so-called wrong when you were a child that have been ordained by God that you go through to make you strong enough to bless somebody else through it. The scripture says that we are to comfort others with the same comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. What does that mean? If you're going to help somebody go through something, you got to make it through something with your attention paid on God, with paying attention to God. You got to listen to his voice. And so there are 4 areas in which you're different. You are mentally different. And some of you believe that your mental difference is dumbness or stupidity. It's not, it's just different. Your brain works differently. And unfortunately, too many children are taught by teachers who want to use the students to validate their own education and intelligentsia, as opposed to teachers who want to draw out the brilliance in the child. They want to demonstrate their brilliance in the student, because some students are adults. Instead of the teacher seeking to draw out the brilliance in the student, they're seeking to highlight their brilliance in the minds of the students. Like, there are college professors who are proud of the fact that most people fail their class. Yep. But guess what? You don't even understand the purpose of being a teacher. Because if most people fail your class, they didn't fail, you failed. You're the failure. So you're different mentally. Your curiosity is different. Maybe you're one of those people. Maybe you're one of those people who always has a question. And maybe that's the thing you got in trouble about the most when you were. Why do you ask so many questions? Like, do you have to ask, like, I should have named you Mark. Like, middle name Mark, first name question. Question mark. Like, you're always asking questions. Maybe you're one of those people who's just curious. Now, see, I was curious as a child. It got me in so much trouble because I wanted to know how things worked. Now, I didn't ask as many questions, but I took everything apart. Why'd you take it apart? I wanted to see how it worked. And then I wanted to see if I could put it back together. In fact, if something got taken apart in our house, well, it wasn't always me. It was just always me who got in trouble for it. If one of my dad's tools were missing out of his toolbox, he assumed I was the one that moved it. Why? Because I love tools. Why? Because they help me take things apart. And sometimes they help me put them back together. So, keeping it real, right? You're mentally different. Maybe you're mentally different because your mind always has a question, but why? Why is this that way? But what about this? But how about that? How does this work? When can we do this? When is this going to happen? Like, maybe you're one of those people who your questions frustrated your teachers because they didn't know the answers. But you didn't realize that God was preparing you in those questions to become a better teacher than the teachers you had, so you could guide other people who are like you when they are coming through to the light that you've been looking for. How many of y'all tracking? And so I'm so glad, I'm so thankful that so many things in my life were so difficult for such a long time, and I paid attention. I'm so glad that I wasn't great at sales when I got started. I'm so glad that I was so what's worse than terrible? Like woefully awful. That'd be worse than terrible, right? I was woefully awful at selling when I first got started in sales. Now, here's how I define woefully awful. You just do presentations every week and everybody says no. For how long? Oh, a year and a half. So I was terrible. I was terrible at getting to yes. And it wasn't because I wasn't talking to enough people. Because one of the things I learned, you haven't talked to enough people yet. Okay, well, nobody's going to accuse me of not talking to enough people. That's going to happen. And so eventually we got to a yes. But you know what taught me more than getting to yes? Getting all those no's and figuring out what didn't work is what led me to figure out what would work. So you're mentally different. Your curiosity is different, which means if your curiosity is different, what else is going to be different? Oh, your competence is different. Because you're so curious, you have answers that other people don't have because you were willing to ask questions that other people wouldn't ask. I think one of my biggest challenges, like discipline challenges that I have, still is my curiosity causes me to stick my learning tentacles into too many learning environments at the same time. Right? That's like, and you say, how many is too many? I don't know, but I know we're close. Right? And but because your curiosity is different, your competence is going to be different. You're going to know things that people are going to look at you and think, well, how could you possibly know that? Right? And what happens is you will recognize that your competence is different in a way that other people don't recognize that it's different. Other people will think that you're potentially being like a smart aleck or smarty pants or a know-it-all when you're just curious and you already read the book. It's like sometimes when I talk to my son, he said, oh yeah, I read that book in 2017. He doesn't just remember the book. He remembers when he read it, right? And I didn't realize how astute my son was until years later. How many years later? Well, he told me about Bitcoin, I think when it was about $12 a coin. And I dismissed it. I know, right? His competence, his awareness, his cognitive awareness of what Bitcoin was greater than mine because he told me about it in 2012. That's a long time ago. I didn't acquire my first Bitcoin until 2017. That's a long time. So, and by the way, for those of you who are watching, if somebody reaches out to you on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, or any other platform, and they've got my picture on their profile and they're selling you some crypto, it's not me, it's a scammer, don't buy it. Okay, just thought I'd say that because a lot of people, apparently now, they're deep faking me for like pain creams on TikTok. It's crazy. Okay, it's craziness. So your competence is different. And so now what happens when you have a higher level of curiosity and then a higher level of competence, because if you're really curious, you're going to know things that other people don't know. Now you're going to have a higher level of confidence. You know what? All of these things, all of those things are in themselves are not bad. Here's the difficult part for you if I'm describing you right now. Here's the difficult part for you. People are going to think you're a know-it-all. People are going to think you're a know-it-all. And you're not a know-it-all. You don't know everything. You just know the stuff you know, right? And so one of the most important things you must learn to do to keep from buying into the lie that your difference is your dysfunction is to stop vying for other people's approval. Let God's approval be enough. You are going to be misunderstood if you're doing something. If you are doing something worthwhile, you will be misunderstood. And if you're not misunderstood, it's probably because you're not doing anything worthwhile. You're hiding. All you have to do is show up and shine. It blows my mind how many keyboard warriors are actually keyboard cowards. And what I mean by that is they will call you everything but a child of God. And by the way, I'm talking about this because some of you are letting this stop you. I don't like when people give me negative comments. Really? Child, have you ever done anything hard, baby? So you can't take it when people give you negative comments. And but I notice a lot of the people who have the most negative stuff to say on YouTube, for instance, you click on their comment, you go to their profile. They've been on YouTube for 14 years and haven't posted one video. But they want to put a comment-lopedia about what's wrong with you in your comments. Because they're really delusional enough to believe that somebody is watching this video because they want to know what that person thinks about it. Stop caring. Your haters are your elevators. Here's what you do next time somebody leaves you a negative comment on social. Here's what you do. You go, oh, poor thing. Oh, poor thing. Like, stop letting it stop you. Don't let the haters make you be invisible, because the people that God sent you to serve, they need you to show up and shine so they can find you. Okay, so you're mentally different. Yeah, I'm mentally different. But not only that, you're physically different. And usually your physical difference was highlighted by other people with the word to in front of it. Not to, T-W-O, not T-T-O, T-O-O. You're too. You're too ugly. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too smart. You're too dumb. You're too tall, too dark, too light, too this, too, yeah, whatever. I'm going to ignore people in here I'm going to ignore all the people in my audience who are too ridiculous. And I hope that those of you on YouTube did not hear what Cole said. Okay, so, okay. Anyway, so you're physically different. Your appearance is different. Well, you know, I'm just, like, when I was a child, I'm telling you, I hated the fact that I had polio. I hated the fact that I couldn't run. I hated the fact that people made fun of me. I told you about Dave Ray. He was real cool and real popular. One day he was making fun of me while I was walking down the hallway at elementary school. And he was walking towards me. And he was making fun of me and all these people around. And, you know, he was laughing. They were laughing. So guess what I did? I started laughing. Ah, Dave, that's hilarious. That's great, bro. As soon as he got close to me, bam! Punched him right in his nose. Blood all over the hallway. We got called to the principal's office. The principal asked him, so Dave, what'd you learn? Oh, shucks. Myron, you can't go around punching people. Dave, what'd you learn? Oh, shucks. Now, I wouldn't punch somebody in the face for making fun of me now. I'd probably just do the... Why? Because why did I punch him in the face? Because I was already in pain. I was in pain from that. I was in pain not from the fact that my leg didn't work like my other leg. I was in pain from the fact that other people brought it to my attention. It didn't really bother me. It didn't bother me that my left leg is smaller than my right leg, or that I walk with a limp, or that my left leg was 2 inches shorter than my right leg. That didn't bother me. You know what bothered me? It bothered me that it bothered other people. Until they brought it to my attention, I really didn't even notice it. Unless I was picked last on the playground or something. But for the most part, even when I walk right now, I don't feel like I, quote, walk funny. Unless I see myself walking past the door and I see my reflection. Or I see myself on a video walking, I was like, wow, that's what it looks like. Huh. So to me, it just feels like walking. You say, why am I saying that? Because I hated it. I would have given anything as a child to not walk funny and have a brace and a Herman Munster shoe on my left foot. I would have given anything, and granny boots, because I had to wear orthopedic shoes. They look like granny boots off the Beverly Hillbillies. I hated it. I am so thankful now. I know that sounds weird. I am so thankful that I had polio. Like, there's no universe in which I could be doing the stuff I'm doing had I not. Like, we just celebrated, and y'all are going to think this is crazy, but I'm telling you, everything affects everything else. We just celebrated last week, like, hitting 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It was so much, it was cool, it was fun, all of that. But it would not have happened. Hear me now what I'm saying now. It would not have happened had I not had polio. You're saying, well, that doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm telling you, it wouldn't have happened that fast. You say, how do you know that? Well, because I know that one of the results of me having had polio was the fact that because I couldn't participate in a lot of physical activities, I spent a lot of time observing other people and observing things. Like a lot of time. And so I was talking to Dr. Bob, I can't remember his last name. He was a professor at, is Rutgers in New Jersey? Rutgers University. He was a professor there, and he used to publish this little magazine called Bits and Pieces that I subscribed to back in the 80s. Back in the 80s. And it was like a little motivational magazine that was about this big, and it had maybe 20 pages in it, and it just had little quips and quotes and stuff in it. And so he subscribed to my conference call a long time ago, back in the early 2000s, and he would just come on my conference call every week. And so one day we had a conversation, and he told me that he was the guy who published Bits and Pieces. He said, Myron, you know who you remind me of? Well, first he said, this is Dr. Bob. His name will come to me. He said, you have an ability to come up with titles that's better than anybody I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, that's interesting. He said, it's really fascinating to me that you remind me of Milton Erickson. I'm like, okay, who's Milton Erickson? Well, Milton Erickson is the father of modern day neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, coaching, counseling, whatever. I was like, that's fascinating. And he said, but you know something that you and Milton Erickson had in common? I said, no, what? He said, Milton Erickson also had polio as a child. He said, and he talked about how when he was a child, because he couldn't participate in certain activities, he just spent time watching people. I was like, that's amazing. I've spent my whole life just watching people and observing. So, not that y'all care, but hopefully you will one day. So I can remember, because I couldn't run, I remember watching people run and attempting to figure out what movements they were doing that gave them the ability to run. And so I analyzed, as a child, I would just sit there and watch people run and just analyze it for hours, which sounds weird, but I mean, what else was I going to do? So it's really, really fascinating that I believe that this thing that has been, that as a child was so painful for me as a child, has become so profitable for me as an adult. And when I say profitable, I don't mean money profitable. I just mean like life skills profitable. And If I had a chance to go back and do a do-over and live a life of Myron Golden without having polio, I wouldn't take it. I really believe that God in his sovereign wisdom ordained for the purpose of my life and my assignment that my body slow down so my brain could speed up. So don't hate on yourself because of what everybody else pointed out in you what's missing. Just utilize that. Like, how can I benefit from how can I benefit from my brokenness so I can help other people who are broken? Man, if you'll look for that, I'm telling you, it'll take your life to another level for sure. So you're physically different. Maybe your appearance is different. Well, I was a black kid in a white town. That made me different, but guess what it did? And we moved around a lot. So guess what it did? It gave me the insight that everybody is not the same everywhere. And so I learned how to deal with people in the country, and I learned how to deal with people in the city because we moved around a lot. And I didn't look like when we were in the country in Lewistown, I didn't look like the kids I went to school with. But when I was in the city, we were poor, so I didn't look like the kids I went to school with there. Even if they were black kids, I didn't look like them because, they had way more money than we had. I mean, so it was all like my appearance was always going to be different. But I'm telling you, embrace that difference. Because that difference is, if you embrace that difference, that's where you'll tap into your destiny. Your abilities are different. Did you know that every weakness creates a strength? Like a compensating strength? So instead of lamenting the weakness, take advantage of the strength. Leverage the strength. It's there for a reason. And stop hiding. Okay, I know I keep saying that. Because some of you believe you're not worthy to show up and shine until. Show up and shine now. The longer you're showing up and shining, the better you get at it. And the more time you give people to find you. So, you're physically different in your appearance. You're physically different in your abilities. You're physically different in your artistic acuity. So, I remember when I was growing up that my brother Jeff especially and my brother Rob especially, they were the two really, really good artists in our family. Like, they could draw. They could draw and make stuff look real, and they were good at it. And Jeff has always been musically inclined, and so it was different. And I remember my mom telling us that my grandfather could play the piano by ear. And I'm like, how does anybody play the piano by ear? But some people can hear music and they know where to put their fingers, right? And for me, my art didn't show up like that. I mean, I could draw okay. I wasn't terrible. Don't judge me by the drawings I put on my board. Because I have other stuff that I've drawn too. Okay, so just calm down. But my artistic ability showed up more in words than in pen and paper. And see, what happens is when we don't get the gift somebody else gets, we think we don't have a gift. I remember when I met the girl who would eventually become my wife. And I met her first day in college. And I wasn't the only guy that liked her. But I was the only guy that could write poetry make you hurt yourself. And I remember I wrote this poem. It was like 27 stanzas. I'm not going to give you the whole thing. But y'all want to hear some of it? Yes. So it was called What Will It Take? And this was the first poem that I wrote for her because when I go all in. I'm throwing the gauntlet down. We ain't playing. Let's go. Right? Because the day that I met her, I did go back to my dorm room and told my brother, who was my roommate, I met the girl today I'm going to marry. She didn't go back to her room and tell anybody she was going to marry me. Anyway, I have my work cut out for me. So, it went like this. What will it take? What will it take to win thine heart, thou fairest of the fair? Well, it will probably, what will it take to win thine heart, thou fairest of the fair? It will take, wow, it escaped me. I haven't said it in a long time. Fairest of the fair, will it take, okay, what will it take to win thine heart, thou fairest of the fair? Will it take a prince of princes or a valiant knight to dare? To win in one so beautiful as you might that require, a nobleman, a priest, a king, or someone even higher? What will it take to win the heart of one so kind and fair in youth? It will probably take a rich man, or handsome of a truth. What will it take to win the heart of one so comely and sublime? Must one be a sovereign ruler or a monarch in his prime? None of these do I possess, and yet I seek to win thine heart, thou queen of elegance, above these valiant men. I'm not a prince of princes, and I've never been a knight, but if I had a chance to win your heart, I think I might. I'm not a nobleman, I'm not a priest or king, but to win your heart, thou fairest, I'd make the bells of heaven ring. Since I don't know what it takes to win your heart so true, please tell me what it takes to win, and that's what I will do. She said, oh, Myron. I said, it's on now, boy, it's out. And a whole bunch of promises later, a whole bunch of poems later, finally got her to say, I do. My art showed up in words. It didn't show up in a musical instrument. It didn't show up on a canvas. It just showed up in how I express myself. So, yeah, lyrics. You're not just physically different, mentally different, but you're also emotionally different. Stop hiding because you're emotionally different. Like maybe your emotional empathy is high. And maybe you feel other people's pain readily and extremely. And you're really, really sensitive. Don't hide that. Let that work for you. Let that bless other people. Maybe your emotional emulation is high. This is really high in people who are good at sales. Your emotional emulation. You actually know how to show people, not just feel, you don't just know how to feel what they feel, you know how to show people that you feel what they feel. Your emotional emulation is high. Your ability to let people, without saying it, to let people know that you feel where they're coming from is really high. Guess what? Guess what some people are going to do? They're going to say, you're just so manipulative. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm telling you. You have to stop needing other people's approval or you will never do anything impactful. Because other people are like crabs in a barrel. They don't want you, they think you getting ahead means they have to get back. And the two don't have anything to do with each other. Okay. Your emotional expressiveness is high. Sometimes when I'm doing YouTube videos, I get really intense. I watch the video later, I'm like, dude, why do you sound so mad? And I'm not mad. I'm just excited and like getting the point across. And some people are like, I wish you'd stop yelling all the time. Right? Me too. I wish I'd stop yelling all the time. That makes two of us, right? I'm not talking about character flaws. I'm talking about just human flaws. We all have them. Like, you don't stop believing in this idea that you have to be perfect in order to show up. The people God sent you to serve are waiting for you to show up. And you're socially different. You're introverted, and extroverts want to make you feel like being introverted is not enough. I know some of the most successful people I know are introverts. So maybe you're an introvert, and you think, well, I can't be successful because I'm an introvert, or I can't do a YouTube video or a TikTok video because I'm an introvert. No, I get it. Trust me. And I know y'all are, like, I am an introvert. I'm naturally an introvert. I have some extrovert, I've developed some extrovert qualities, but I'm naturally an introvert. Or maybe you're an extrovert. And when you're an extrovert, guess what people do? They look at you and they think you're a show-off. You're just showing off. That's all you're doing is showing off. Just a bloat show, that's all you do. You want everybody to look at you. But extroverts are expressive. And they get their energy from people. Introverts are more contemplative and get their energy from being alone. Neither one of them is good or bad. They're both good, they're both bad. They both have their good qualities, they both have their bad qualities. One's not better than the other, they're just different because if you're an introvert, you were sent to do stuff that introverts are supposed to do. And if you're an extrovert, you were sent to do stuff that extroverts are supposed to do. Just embrace whatever you are, just embrace it. Or you're an omnivert. Now, what's an omnivert? An omnivert is an introvert who operates as an extrovert, or an extrovert who operates as an introvert so you can get your work done. And if you're that, be that. But if you're not that, you don't have to attempt to be that. Just be what you are. It's so funny. If you're an omnivert, when you're around extroverts, they think you're an extrovert. But if you're an omnivert, when you're around introverts, they think you're an introvert. So, like, if I'm in an event and there are a lot of people there and it's not my event, I always sit on the back row in the corner. I don't want any attention. None. It's not because I'm ashamed. I'm there to learn. I don't want to all eyes on me. I'm happy to be by myself. Like when I go to events like conferences, like I'll usually have my couple of little friends that were close and we'll just sit around and talk the whole time just because like all that limelight stuff, if I'm teaching, great. If I'm not teaching, I don't care about it at all. Don't even want it at all. It's not because there's any shame there. It's just I don't know. I like my me time. When I'm when I'm done doing an event, and when I'm doing an event and the day's over, I express it like this: I am peopled out. Like I've used all my people energy today. I don't have any left, so I'm going to go somewhere and be by myself so I can recharge. Right. So whatever you are, though, be that. So all of that. Myron's my rant to say this. If you will stop hiding and trust that God didn't make a mistake when he made you different, I think what you'll find, if you'll look at your differences, you will find your values, the things that you value. And by the way, your values are what's going to attract your audience whose lives you're going to add value to, and they're going to add value to your life because they're going to pay you. So your values come from your difference. Your virtues, a lot of your virtues come from your difference. People laugh when I say this, but I quit drinking when I was 11. You say, when did you start? I don't know. It's probably 3 or 4. And it was just normal. A lot of people don't know this. But during antebellum slavery, the slave masters would give the slaves alcohol on the weekends and holidays so they could drink away their sorrows and not have to think about the fact that their existence is a slave. A lot of people don't know that that's a lot of the genesis of alcoholism in the black community. A lot of people don't know that. Anyway, so from when I was growing up, it was normal for parents to give their children beer if they were drinking beer. They'd just give their kids some of the beer. And I don't know if any of you experienced that or not, but I did. I was allowed to get a can of beer out of the refrigerator when I was 4 and just drink it like it was soda. And don't judge my parents, because my parents were awesome. They were awesome. And I don't care if you judge them or not. They don't care either. But my parents were awesome. They weren't perfect, but they were awesome. But you know what made me quit drinking when I was 11? I loved going to work with my dad. Loved it. I had so much fun. I felt like a kid in a candy store. I'm at work with my dad. We're working on this roof one day, helping build Mr. Buck's barn. And I heard my dad bragging to one of his coworkers, "Yeah, man, my son's the hardest worker you ever seen in your life. That boy's just, he's amazing. Yeah, that Michael, man, he's short." I'm thinking, Michael? But Mike was very, very tidy. His room was always clean, washing dishes, whatever, vacuum. Michael sure can work. And I thought to myself, Michael's not the one that's here today. I'm here. Why is he bragging on Mike? And then he saw me looking at him. My dad saw me looking at him when he was talking to his friend. And he could see the look on my face. He said, "Yeah, that Myron sure can drink some beer." And I thought to myself, I'm not judging. I love my dad. I thought to myself, he will never be able to brag on me about that again. So I quit drinking when I was 11. But I'm glad But that happened because it showed me something. The fact that I was drinking beer and gin and vodka. Sorry. Sometimes, every now and then, some wine. When I was a little kid, that difference, that's the family I grew up in our whatever level of whatever, is one of the reasons I don't drink alcohol. It's just, look at your differences as a gift and find your virtues in those differences. Find your values in those differences. And then the other thing is, it gives you visions. So you can find your visions in your differences. So like health is really like one of my highest values, right? Like focusing on health. Because I learned a long time ago that just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to get weaker and sicker and tireder and like less able. Like when I was growing up, I believed that as you got older, you had to get weaker and sicker and tireder and less able. But I don't believe that anymore. And so a long time ago, I really started focusing on my health. Like late 90s, I really got like dialed in, focused on my health. Got away from it a little while, but came back. Like I cold plunged this morning for 5 minutes in 37-degree water. If I wasn't going out of town today, I'd do a whole workout routine in my biohacking room. So I do stuff to focus on because my mom told me when I was a little kid about this what's it called? Syndrome called post-polio syndrome. Now, you've probably heard of it, Dr. Siobhan, right? Post-polio syndrome, people who had polio when they were younger, when they get older, like it reemerges and then they get weaker and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, no, sir. No, sir. We're going to keep that enemy at bay. And so one of the reasons that I value like fitness, nutrition, biohacking, and all of that is because I know that if I didn't, like I've got something in there that I got a giant laying in the cut for me, waiting to rear its ugly head and show me. No, we ain't having it. Like that's why I do like regenerative medicine with my doctor in Dallas. Like, and I'll fly to Dallas and get these needles that are this long injected into my spine with all this like regenerative medicine stuff. Why? Because I know that there is a possibility of this weakness coming back. And so I fight the enemy as far away from the door as I possibly can. So it can give you visions for the things you should do in the present. Look at the differences that you've had your whole life as a guide to your destiny. And I think you'll be blown away when all of a sudden you look around one day and say, I declare, I'm here. Your difference is not your dysfunction. Don't buy the lie. It costs too much. All right, my peeps, stay blessed by the best, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Bye for now.